Fairmont Crest is not accustomed to silence, but the moment Isaiah Hawthorne set foot in town, an unusual stillness seemed to descend, as if the old mansion's walls understood that once one link is yanked free, the whole chain of history will shriek. Jacob's brother arrived with an unreadable poise, a vague smile, and a gaze too slow to be accidental. His allure was not loud. It seeped into brief hallway exchanges, into the way the staff closed doors a few seconds late, into the curiosity of women who had long relied on reason yet lacked the instinct to stop. From the start, everyone asked the same question. Why did Isaiah know every detail of Anita's life? The timelines, the quiet decisions, the hairline cracks in supposedly unbreakable vows. When, on the surface, he had no connection to her at all? If not coincidence, then what invisible map was he following? Who drew the arrows, and to what end? At the vortex of this storm was a letter. It appeared in Isaiah's hand like a prop placed in the exact spot, at the exact moment, for the exact recipient, opening a dozen grim possibilities. Some said it was a copy stolen from Kenneth's files, sealed with a kind of tape only those who live in the gray zones of power would recognize. Others whispered about an unpublished testament, dashed off on a stormy night years ago, when the worst decisions are often signed by trembling hands. What could it possibly say to make Anita, who has spent a lifetime matching wits on political chessboards, stumble at the sight of ink, loosening the composure woven from habit and nerve? Did the letter tie her name to Kenneth's death in a way that cannot be undone, or worse, did it append the entire order of bloodlines she had used to define loyalty and the bounds of motherhood? Isaiah did not rush to expose anything. He moved in ways that coaxed others to reveal their weaknesses. He appeared beside Eva just as the wound of Tomas had not yet skinned over. He passed Kat like a cold wind, stirring the layers of jealousy she thought she had locked shut by sheer will. His presence made two women, long held in check by a thin and brittle truce, begin to sway. Was he diverting attention to advance a primary objective, or was this merely the side effect of a dangerous magnetism, where the wounded mistake observation for empathy and proximity for rescue? Eva found in Isaiah a new rhythm of breathing, but is that a path into the light or a shortcut to a room without windows? Kat felt the fury of a threatened grip on control, but will she admit her fear of being replaced, or convince herself she is safeguarding something nobler? Brief encounters, a footfall lingering on the third stair, glances traded through glass panes. All of it seemed arranged to cover the most discreet appointment. Isaiah met Anita. No witnesses, no recorder. Only the heartbeat of a woman who once believed she could always stand above the storm. The letter passed from his hand to hers, and the first thing that cracked in the air was not an excuse but the shell of confidence accrued across years of negotiation. Anita trembled long enough to recognize this was no passing crisis. If the letter was a confession, did it come from Kenneth as a final blade after his death, or from a third party formerly beyond suspicion? If the letter was a pact, was it a murky contract between Anita and Kenneth, a guilty bargain detailed enough to bring down her political career with a single public reading? Why would a man like Isaiah hold it? Where did he get it, and for whom? The most vicious question scraping at everything concerned blood. Is Isaiah Anita's hidden child? And if so, why was that truth buried for so long? Who is the father? Some name erased from the files, or a face still walking the halls under a different role? If Anita once gave birth in panic, who helped her bury the trail? Naomi, with hands deft at stitching the family's seams until they vanished, or Vernon, the upright pillar who also understands how to bend reality to preserve the surface? How far can a warped truth travel before it snaps back and injures? And when it does, whom will it cut first? No one begins a crusade with a single sheet of paper, but no one dismisses a letter capable of annihilating a life. Isaiah displayed the rare patience of those who have learned to be cool even while burning. If he came to avenge Kenneth, is his plan to isolate the weakest alliances, pour oil on hot spots of doubt, and watched the links slip off one by one. Eva was drawn into the orbit of a man who seemed to read her pain. But is that empathy real or a flawless replica forged by ruthless observation? Kat, fiery, decisive, what will she do when danger beats against her like a drum? Will she protect love or pride? And are those two actually the same thing? From a distance, Jacob watched like a man forced to stand outside a game invented by his own lineage. Is Isaiah a brother or a blade stabbed backward from the past? If Isaiah truly is Anita's son, how will the family axis tilt? And will Jacob concede his place or drag everything down in resistance? When truth shifts, do right and wrong still matter? Or is everyone merely fighting for the least broken rung on a shaking house ladder? Amid the questions of blood, the cruelty of politics rises. Anita must keep the seat, guard her name, and soothe donors and partners without letting slip that her core is cracking. Whom will she sacrifice if cornered? Will she sell a private bond or accept a public collapse? Every calculation is cold. Every person is hot. At the intersection, who explodes first? Anita's panic is not just fear. It is recognition that a chain of past choices has arrived to settle accounts. If the letter maps a clandestine deal with Kenneth, then each benefit and traded promise becomes evidence. If it proves a child once denied, every speech about family and values becomes a blade in the crowd's hand. She thinks of Naomi, of the countless times Naomi appeared and vanished like a shadow, carrying away threads of trouble so neatly they became invisible. She thinks of Vernon, of a rectitude beyond reproach, and of midnight calls she always pretended not to understand. The solitude of the person at the top isn't the absence of allies. It is that every ally has a price. Is she cold enough to pay at the right time, or will she pay too much, too late? Meanwhile, Isaiah never forgot the secondary stage. He left traces in the emotional exchange between Eva and Kat, not to possess but to test the elasticity of relationships surrounding Anita. If a mere twinge of jealousy can push Kat to crash against Eva, what will happen when the letter lands in hands beyond the fortified circle? If Eva, in a moment of softness, admits she feels seen by Isaiah, will Kat reclaim ground by exposing other secrets? At Fairmont Crest, love has never been pure consolation. It is a lever to lift or to crush. And when everyone is driven to the brink, questions like who deserves, who betrays, and who atones often yield to a single, colder one. Who survives the next turn of the spiral? Isaiah's arrival also stirred unseen mechanisms. Old files were borrowed and returned. Funds moved through short-lived charities. Dinners took place off the official calendar, all sketching a web whose center always lay where Anita stood. One night, the mansion's fire system triggered from some meaningless technical glitch, but at that precise moment, a small safe in the study jammed. By morning it worked again, and nobody mentioned it. Was that Isaiah's test or a counterstrike by someone else who felt threatened? In a place where everyone has cause to fear, who is quietly cutting deals for a guaranteed exit when the blast comes? A theory spread like fire in high wind. Isaiah did not come for affection. He came to complete a mission. If that mission is tied to Kenneth's death, the next questions plunge deep. Why did Kenneth die and who profited most? If the letter holds a code, a date aligning with his last day, or a money flow charted by odd donations, is justice actually part of Isaiah's plan? Or merely revenge dressed in ethical language? Is justice enough to cool his fury? Or is fury the only thing holding him upright amid the postponements of life's promises? And as he forces Anita to choose, is he releasing truth, or simply driving a person to the edge to savor the sound of the fall? Fairmont Crest swelled with whispers, and the more they multiplied, the more people stared at Anita for a sign. She began to make decisions harsher than necessary, slashing meetings, moving speeches, gripping information as if she could stitch the town's mouth shut. In that control, her unease showed. A question hung high. If things must fall to rebuild a truth that is less false, Will she choose a controlled collapse, or cling until exhaustion and then drown at the most merciless moment? When one outruns the past long enough, does the past not grow wider and heavier, finally becoming a wall that cannot be scaled? Isaiah kept advancing. Precisely, not so fast as to arouse suspicion, not so slow as to lose the lead. He asked questions by setting the stage for others to answer them. He made no promises, issued no threats, yet events around him worked like a reminder. All secrets have expiration dates. In the dark, Naomi counted the days she had stitched together for Anita, searching for newly opened seams. Vernon, his voice unshakably calm, reconsidered choices once a point of pride that now looked like traps ready to snap shut on them all. If there is only one exit, who earns the first step and who gets branded a traitor for choosing to live? By the end, the town no longer cared whether Isaiah was charming. They wanted to know whether he was a key to the buried room or a torch thrower igniting the hayloft. If he is Anita's son, every relationship map must be redrawn, vows reread, and Jacob will have to redefine himself in a reordered world. If he is not, the letter remains a bomb, and the question of its origin will shatter the fragile trust that lingers. What, then, is his true goal, to restore balance for the dead or to shove the reigning symbols off a ledge high enough to cause permanent damage? Will any form of justice rebuild Fairmont Crest's moral core, or only usher in a new age of turbulence, with temporary alliances and smiling faces standing on trembling ground? As dusk spreads over the hills, the mansion's windows kindle one by one, each frame its own world where anger paces like a caged animal waiting for the final prod. Isaiah stands at the edge of the lawn and looks at the lights opening like squares on a chessboard. He knows anger is a tool, but inner conflict is the engine. A single letter can ignite both. And once everyone has been pushed into a corner, the question is not who is right or wrong, but who will pay by burning their own image to hold onto a sliver of truth. If by tomorrow the letter leaves its keeper and flies into the light, who will be scorched first? Who will walk away with visible burns? And who will carry the invisible wound that never heals? Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. All the content I make is just speculation and personal sharing. If you find the video interesting and useful, please support me with a like and leave a comment. If you have better ideas or more interesting speculations, please share them in the comments section for everyone to discuss. I appreciate all your contributions and support. Sincerely, thank you.